So thank you for inviting me here, and nice to meet you all, ladies and gentlemen, especially those in Japan who are seeing. So wonderful to see you. We are in the era of the connected mariner. Even if you have a crewed vessel, we today have access to more information on board a ship than we have ever had. Data links, satellite communications, comms is everywhere. And one of the big drivers for where we are today and why we are seeing events like this and vessels coming along is that development of communications, that communication technology. So as we are getting more and more information, how does this affect us and how does this change this? So this isn't just about talking about uncrewed vessels. This is about remote operations, but also how it impacts, how technology impacts seafarers at all times. So who are we? Just a very quick piece about who we are. Seabot Maritime, our job is to work to sort out the people technology partnership in maritime. We work primarily in uncrewed vessels and remote operations, but it works across everything. So any type of vessel that you can think of. What we can see is that people, learning, automation technology, and operational excellence are all part of the same circle. They all come together. If you have technology but you don't have the people to use it, that technology is pretty much useless. We have seen that numerous times. Technology runs ahead of things and people have to catch along behind. We're very much looking at a demographic that changes. We were talking earlier, I heard one of the speakers say that one of the big issues in Japan is a lack of people coming into the industry, and you have a much older population of seafarers. Well, what we have to do, and using technology can help you bring more people in, people who maybe couldn't have gone to sea in the past or didn't want to, or you could even bring people back into it by using technology and looking at different ways like remote operations. One of the groups that we're part of, and I'll talk a lot more about this later, is we're co-founders of a group called Mass People. It's an international working group of flag states where we're coming together to look at the standards around people and technology, so around the standards for training and what needs to happen. Now, the idea behind it is to get some consensus, which then can be taken forward into the international level towards IMO, etc. But I'll talk more about that as we go through. So this connected workplace or workforce, decision support systems is what we are seeing at all times now. Everything from an ECDIS system to weather tracking, whatever you want to see, these are decision supports. They help you make better decisions. So what we're using is analytical tools to give us repeatable and much better decision making. That's what we're seeing. Now, we are always in the loop though. Even whether we're in the loop or off the loop, a person is usually there and doing stuff. So we're trying to make sure that we augment human capabilities rather than replace them. Because we humans are really quite special. You know, in the known universe, we're as good as it gets in terms of computing. What we sometimes see is people versus technology. And that is a really bad thing. We want to get to the stage where we are people working with technology. We do not want to be in competition with robots or with decision making. We need to work in partnership. So a future workforce, it's more human. And actually, one of the things I learned through the development of CKIT, I sometimes use a photo, I didn't use it in this one, but I looked at the picture of us when we were doing the X Prize, and there's 30 people in that photograph for one mission, one 12-meter boat going off and doing a mission. Having an uncrewed vessel does not mean you don't need people. It really, really doesn't. So what we have to do, we have to make humans better. Why take a human off a ship if you're going to put them on the shore and make them worse at their job? Don't do that. Take them off the ship. Allow them to do what they're good at. And humans are really good at certain things, and technology is really good at certain things. This is just a little example. It's just a silly one, really. But in Star Trek, Jim Kirk was still on the bridge. So was Commander Spock. That's the reality. And I know that's a bit facetious, but we are moving away from this. So we know that there's a lot of companies out there who are already working at this sort of cutting edge. Workforces and workforce transition is really part of it. We work with a lot of companies to help them understand the model and what it changes and how to do that. It needs new skills, it's new roles, new career options, new paths. one of the things you'll notice here, so new technologies such as this, you see these new vessels coming online. I'm just going to make the point, if you, in the left-hand picture, you can't see the bridge, but if you look to the right-hand picture, this is a well-known uncrewed vessel. One thing you will note on top of it is a bridge. It wasn't there in the renderings when it was first launched, but it is there now. So, you know, there's reality and then there's hype, and we've got to get away from it. From the hype, I should say. So this is an example. This is one of the sea kit boats operated by Fugro. There's new ways of operating. So this is a complex operation. This is an ROV operation within a 500 meter zone. It is as complex as it gets. So you've got an ROV under the water doing pipeline surveys close to an oil rig. But you're able to do this with a 12 meter vessel rather than a 90 meter vessel. So from that sort of perspective, the cost savings are enormous. You're burning 100 litres of fuel a day rather than thousands, and you've got 6 people involved in the operation, not tens of people. This here is an example, new tech, so not just in the commercial sector. This is the Patrick Blackett, which is the new Navy X, the Royal Navy. Navy X is this demonstrator. It is an uncrewed vessel. It's got crew on it, but it can be used for uncrewed, and it's being used for remote operations trials as we speak. Also, we see Ocean Infinity. There's lots of new technologies, lots of new ships coming through. Absolutely fantastic. But there's one common denominator, and that is the people. One of the things that you will notice, and actually this is from a US Navy admiral a while ago, he was talking about how vessels were being used. US Navy has spent billions on uncrewed vessels. They've got the ghost fleets, and they're phenomenal technology, probably, you know, easily the world leaders, I would say, right now. One of the issues they had was, he was saying, was that, well, actually, operationally, in peacetime, we'll need to operate with people on board. We'll only take the people off when it's wartime, which is a bit of an odd situation when you think about it. You know, you're putting your standard operating model is one thing in one situation and one thing in the other. So it's just something to watch for. So we need new skills. We need new people. We need to upskill people. We need to make sure that the workforce is there. Another little picture here. One thing you'll see with all of these is a theme emerging. There's an operator in every single one of these photographs. There's a person involved in the loop, making decisions or controlling the vessel. Again, there's another control center. So I'll see if I can get the little video to work. Yes, there we go. So this is a control center. This was that vessel that was operating within the 500 meter zone doing ROV operations. This is from the control center. Operators on one side. So it's gone blocky there. ROV operators in the center. And then on the right-hand side, you have the comms and operational management section. This is going on now. This is happening. You know, this isn't a test or anything else. This is a commercial operation that is going on, and there's multiple of these all around the world now. So just a little case study. We'll talk about Mass People now briefly. Mass People is an international working group pulling together flag states. The idea behind this is, we know and we've heard earlier about the IMO and where that is and how that's working. What we want to do is get consensus between most of the flags that are already working in this area. So Mass People is an attempt to start right at the ground level, to start looking at standards, not trying to write regulations. We'll do that later. That's the IMO's job. Our job is to understand the basics, which can then influence the rule setting later. If you look at the modern world, shipping, traditional shipping at the top, we've got a regulator and regulations, we've got teaching institutions, instructors, and training infrastructure. It all exists. You start getting into uncrewed vessels and remote operations, it doesn't. And that's where we are today. Now, our job, we have created the first MCA or UK MCA recognised training course for uncrewed vessel operations ourselves. So we're starting down that path, but we've got to keep going, and we are at an early stage. So Mass People, shaping the connected mariner. So what is the method of operation? So we're concentrating, just try and get this working, there we go. So normal crewed vessels and remotely supported vessels. So again, traditional shipping, yes, remotely supported, i.e. they're getting information sent to them, but they're still working through it. Then you get a combination, reduced crew vessels, remote and autonomous vessels working with a parent vessel. So again, you start getting that mixture. And then we start to move to fully remote and autonomous vessels, fully uncrewed, and sometimes non-operational crewed vessels, which are in the area. How do we do it? What are we actually doing here? So we're trying to develop this partnership by gathering information on the operational models, first of all. So we are working with flag states operators across the world to gather information on these ops models. The UK MCA has got a national working group where they are talking to all the stakeholders in their area. They're gathering information, which then gets fed up to the Mass People group. We then compile task statements, define the job roles, compare and contrast against the current standards. So where are we against current seafaring standards and training standards? And at which point we then define the new competency requirements. However, it's not a straight line. It is a loop. This is a continuous and will be a continual process that goes on as technology grows, as technology changes. We have to keep this program and process moving. So what's the current status of Mass People? Well, we have 9 flag states, UK, Netherlands, etc. You can read that there. They have the regional survey groups, which are an area. Now, we do have 2 more groups who are about 2 more flag states that are going to join. It's not official yet, but I can say that obviously sitting in Japan House, that's quite useful. So that might give a hint about one of the flag states that may be joining soon. Our first deliverables really, so we're putting a mass acceptance document together where we're highlighting current operational acceptance for mass in each member flag state. So we're trying to understand what does it take in each area to actually get operation approved. So building a remote autonomous workforce in the UK and abroad. So what are we doing? The model is quite simple. It's a command structure. We have to think about this as a command structure. At the moment, we are basically, it's one operator to one vessel. We have different areas. You can have multiple operators and with multiple vessels under a command structure, but it is very much a very simple model at the moment. This is what it looks like. You might have an accountable manager sitting over the top. That's more like an airline term that I'm very comfortable with, which is the overall person, i.e. the person who goes to jail if it all goes wrong. But you have your ROC managers, USV masters, and then you can have operators underneath. But again, what you can see there is one operator, one vessel. Where are we going with this? Well, obviously, this will change as time goes on. We are looking, we will be having multiple operator looking at multiple vessels, potentially even multi-domain, subsurface, surface, airborne, have this one thing. There are already moves to do this and command and control systems that are being put in place to do so. How are we doing this? Well, in the UK, we signed a memorandum of understanding with the National Oceanography Centre and also with the Royal Navy to look at standards of training and to look at surface and subsurface areas. Occupational proposal has been made and approved by the UK government. So we have got a standard approved now for surface and subsurface operator training, which is fantastic. It's the first one in the world. So we're quite proud of that. But what we're also looking at is how we have to have this as an international standard. It can't just be for the UK. So what we're looking at is how do we actually spread this out? So we have our international stakeholder network, standardized learning packs, trainer-trainer schemes, standardized curriculums, everything that goes out around the world. Okay, perfect. It's the last slide. So really, a knowledge-based workforce is what we need. It sounds maybe a little bit crazy, but we have to have a workforce that works across the domain. People are at the heart of marine autonomy. They're at the heart of technology, and we have to make sure that we give them the tools to be able to do the job correctly. We work all the time with mariners. We see where they struggle sometimes, and actually sometimes we find that the skills that with ROV operators sometimes are easier to pick up the handling ability of a USV, but they haven't then got the marine knowledge that a master mariner would have. So where do you draw that line? So what we've got to do is try and move the workforce and create the workforce there. This isn't about replacing people with technology. It's about allowing them to work with it. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Can I have my mic on, please? Is it there?